Now, if you only got your news from mainstream media, well, first off, I feel sorry for you. But secondly, you would come to believe that Tucker Carlson is an ardent white supremacist, foaming at the mouth. He's got one of those hoods on, ready to go. He's got it at the dry cleaners, probably in multiple series of hoods. And he just dons them for any old occasion, ready to go burning some crosses in some churches. Well, it would be kind of odd, though, that if he was that kind of guy, that he would spend time in the company of someone who was somebody who was all about black rights, champion of black empowerment, black independence, someone like Ice Cube. That's right. I just watched episode 10 of Tucker Carlson on Twitter, and he was spending time in a car riding through LA with none other than Ice Cube. And they were talking about all the topics that you aren't supposed to talk about. Basically doing a drive-by shooting of all the narratives. So what did they kind of discuss? Well, they talked about the COVID vaccine and they talked about their own viewpoints on it. They mentioned the fact that Ice Cube chose not to get vaccinated for his own reasons, and he turned down a $9 million deal. And for any of you who've watched Tucker Carlson, you know already that he chose not to do it either for their own personal reasons. Ice Cube shared the fact that there was a lot of pressure upon him to, basically submit, but he chose not to. It was a personal decision. And for the record, neither one of them are anti-vax. I mean, I believe, had vaccines prior. It was just the COVID vaccine they seemed to take issues with. And particularly Ice Cube mentioned the fact that somehow he thought it was just made too quick, whatever. Then they also tackled the narrative of the fact that black people have been doing well with all this money being poured into black neighborhoods and with black city officials being elected, that somehow black people are better off. And it seems they're not. It would appear that, according to what Ice Cube says, politicians are politicians, and they typically line their own pockets and basically just enrich themselves, which makes sense because really, at the end of the day, do you really want to solve the black and white issue? Why would you? There's just too much profit in it. When organizations, groups like Black Lives Matter, who are basically grifters, decide that they can make a record amount of money. And according to Ice Cube, it seems that the NBA are grifters themselves, that maybe they don't quite believe in all the stuff they espouse to believe in. According to Ice Cube, it's very simple to say platitudes and to say Black Lives Matter or we stand with black liberation. But when it comes to actually putting, your money where your mouth is, for example, there's a black basketball league that Ice Cube has started. And according to him, the NBA doesn't seem to be very supportive in empowering black individuals. Maybe that's because the NBA, like a lot of these organizations, it isn't about black or white, it's always about green. That's right, follow the money. That's always what it's about. And the race hustlers know that dividing people along skin lines around ethnicity and all of these different things is very profitable. It's a great money maker. I mean, honestly, if you think about it, why wouldn't it be? It's played by both sides of the aisle. The liberal leftists, scream for improvements in black neighborhoods and black ghettos. And what do? They do nothing about it. They don't mind the deterioration because it allows them to go in later and buy up the neighborhoods fairly cheap, regentrify them, rebrand them, and resell them. That's very profitable. And the race hustlers like the Al Sharptons and those sorts of people on the other side, well, they don't mind it. It raises a lot of money for their causes. They get to fill their coffers and espouse a bunch of stuff and basically not live like the people they apparently proclaim to be all about. It's a real good hustle, and it seems to be working really well. It's the old British, philosophy. The British used to have a saying that you divide and conquer. And it would appear that along racial lines, dividing and conquering seems to be working really well. Ice Cube also and Tucker talked about the hope and change President Obama, that when he got elected, everybody thought, here we go, this is going to be something really positive. And yet under his 8 years, there were more race riots than ever. He was very divisive. He did not bring people together. Now, I would use him as an example, saying that if people say there's systemic racism and white people are not accepting, well, it would seem odd that white people basically elected Obama. I mean, if you look at the statistics, 13% of the population in America is black, however you want to define it. So it obviously says that 13% couldn't have elected Obama alone. You would have needed a consensus of a whole bunch of voters that were not black. And they all seemed to be on board because they all wanted the same thing, unity. And I would argue that prior to Obama being elected, there was more unity. People got along better. But post-Obama, it got really ugly. And during Obama, obviously, it got ugly. So what did they do? Tucker and Ice Cube basically proved that really there isn't a lot of division between people when they sit down together. It seems that only the politicians, the grifters, and the shafters and the shysters seem to be the ones pushing for polarization and division. Because after all, folks, this is how they keep power and they make a shitload of money. They just sell you a narrative and some bullshit that people sop up and they say, yeah, this guy's all for me. He really cares. He's very sincere. No, they're not. They're only about lining their own pockets. Once we see past one's color or anything else, are there people that are of different color that you're going to like? Yeah. Are there people that you're going to dislike? Yeah. That's just human beings. There's people who think I'm an a-hole and there's people who like me. That's just life. It's got nothing to do with the fact that I'm brown in color. That has irrelevant. And I don't judge people by that either. I look at, like Dr. Martin Luther King, Reverend Martin Luther King used to say, I judge a man by the content of his character, not by the color of his skin. That's how we should roll, folks. And when you put two people with common sense together, that the mainstream, that the the apparatus, or let's say the deep state, or whoever you want to call, don't want to have them sitting together having conversation. We know now that four others are really being ruffled and that the narrative is being attacked, because ultimately that's what it's about for these people. Maintaining the narrative, the divisiveness, on every single issue is very profitable for the people who run the show. Well, people like YouTube or other people. Anyway, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Please post any comments you have in the comment section. You can always follow me in my Rumble on my Locals account. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do so. I recently got out of YouTube jail, so I'm here. But like I said, I'm on Rumble. I'm also on X now, I guess. It's not Twitter, at Camera612. See you next time.